The El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO for short, is a cycling back and forth between a warm state in the Pacific Ocean called El Niño and a cold state called La Niña. And when we're in neither of those, and we're just in between those two, we call it neutral conditions. So there's no formal definition of a super El Niño. What that sounds to me like is a very strong El Niño, and we've had a lot of strong El Niños in the past. Since the satellite era began in 1982, we've had, I would say, 4 or 5 pretty strong El Niños that you could point to and say those were super El Niños. There are 15 dynamical models developed and used by various groups and scientific institutions around the world to forecast El Niño. The latest forecasts for this current El Niño were just released on June 22nd, and they're showing a significant increase in the anticipated peak intensity of this El Niño event. The average forecast from this ensemble of models calls for a peak strength of 2.6 degrees Celsius this October. This number represents how much warmer than normal the surface waters are in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. If this forecast of 2.6 degrees above normal comes through this October, it will nearly tie for the strongest El Niño on record by this metric, which occurred during the winter of 2015 to 2016. What ENSO does is it tries to lock our weather into sort of a pattern that tries to hold place and shape the weather over the course of seasons, but it affects everywhere a little bit differently. Different parts of the US, for example, will be wetter during an El Niño and different parts will be drier. So it's not a globally consistent effect. Every ENSO event is different. No 2 El Niño events look the same in the tropical Pacific. No 2 El Niño events bring the same impacts all over the world. There's a pattern for sure, but there's differences, and those differences can be the difference between getting extra rainfall and the neighboring state getting that extra rainfall. So these subtle differences are really important. Yeah, so right now we are in a drought in the western US. It would take a lot of rain to get us back to normal right now. But one of the things that typically happens with an El Niño event is it does bring more rain to the southwest. El Niño does impact where the jet stream sits and where atmospheric rivers land on the west coast. If El Niño does bring us any additional precipitation this year here in Colorado, it's more likely to be in the south of the state. Our state just sits in this funny place between a big impact to the southwest where it gets wetter and a different impact to the north where it gets warmer during an El Niño.